What you're saying is reduction is key.
I would challenge any viewer or listener who is feeling those challenges too much is what do you focus on throughout your day? You focus on what you can control versus what you can't control.
Whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to share something important. The views expressed by my guests are their own, and they may not necessarily reflect mine or those of this platform. My intention with every episode is to create a space where we can explore diverse perspectives, life experiences, and belief systems together. I truly believe that wisdom lives everywhere, and often we find it in the places we least expect, especially in those whose experiences and beliefs are very different from our own. Not every episode will challenge you, but some might, and that's okay. Growth often comes when we allow ourselves to step into discomfort and see the world through someone else's eyes. I also want to share something I heard recently from Oprah Winfrey that really struck a chord with me. She said at a commencement speech, "People all want to know one thing. Was that okay? Did you hear me? Do you see me? Did what I say mean anything to you?" My hope is that you will try to go out and have more face-to-face conversations with people you may disagree with, that you'll have the courage to look others in the eye and hear their point of view, and help make sure that the speed and distance and anonymity of our world doesn't cause us to lose our ability to stand in somebody else's shoes and recognize all that we share as a people. There has to be some way that this darkness can be banished with light. I couldn't agree more with those sentiments spoken by Oprah. These dialogues aren't always easy, but they are so important. My hope is that this episode and all the episodes I share will inspire you to listen a little more closely, reflect a little more deeply, and keep showing up for the conversations that matter most. Thank you for being here with me. It means so much to me that you're part of this journey. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and in today's episode, we will explore the intersection of personal growth, performance, and intentional living. Our guest today is Michael Mahoney.
Yes.
A performance coach, entrepreneur, and founder of Edutive and UPGRD, companies dedicated to helping students, educators, and school administrators enhance focus, emotional intelligence, and state control. With a background in real estate investing and leadership, Michael has spent years guiding individuals to master their focus, thoughts, and emotions. His work emphasizes personal evolution, intentional living, and unlocking human potential. But beyond professional achievements lies a deeper journey, a path shaped by discipline, self-awareness, and a commitment to living purposefully. To share his insights on performance, growth, and living with intention, I'm excited to welcome Michael to today's episode. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godparents turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Michael, we always start with the same question for our guests. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
Fantastic question. First of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's such an honor. Always love to get to know people, especially great people who are friends of friends. So I guess big picture, I want people to come away with on this show some wisdom that you probably don't need to fix or add too many things. It's probably something more of subtraction. And that's usually the path to awareness, is subtracting some things that are getting in your own way.
So I'm already intrigued. Let's unpack this. So what I hear when you say that is that we collect a lot, but we don't edit. And so instead of just adding, we're looking at editing.
Yeah. Subtraction, editing, they're both aligned. I think most people are always looking to do more, right? I got to do more. I got to earn more. I got to grind more. I got to hustle more.
Yeah.
And that program worries people. It gives them more things to focus on, and then they'll get in that overwhelmed feeling. And I feel that awareness is about subtracting, right? It's about being more of just being. So the wisdom that I've had privilege to acquire over the years is from watching people when they remove things and they subtract things and they just go back to being, that's when true awareness starts for them.
I'm going to do a thing we call the yeah buts, Michael.
Let's do it.
Yeah, but you don't understand, Michael. I've got like bills to pay, kids to manage, life to do. I carry the mental load for the family. I also do all the things. What do you mean I can edit or take away something? Don't you know how busy I am? And I say that with such sincerity, not mocking tone at all.
I'm curious, how is that a problem, all those things?
Yes, let me channel my inner listener voice. Because I think the premise of what you're saying is reduction is key so that you have an easier time on your nervous system, so that you can have an experience of being. And I can hear my listeners butting us all over the place. And the but comes from, but how? So it's a problem for me because these things feel very real to me. And maybe they are very real. I might have dependence, I might have responsibilities, and it might feel like I actually can't edit. Because if I was to edit something, then something terrible might happen. Or I might not deliver something that feels important or is important to me.
I might challenge those belief systems that if you were to edit something, how would you know specifically that then that would cause chaos in your life, right? Have you actually attempted to do something like that? Or how specifically is all these things causing you pain, suffering, whatever the emotion is, the negative emotion is? I would really ask any listener, any viewer out there, to start to challenge their own illusions, right? Their own illusions, because I believe life is beautiful. Life is actually very easy. It's only hard on our illusions.
I also believe those beliefs. I have access to them. They make up my day. I think, though, I do feel like it could be of great value if we're able to pass, as in like slice it thinner, the reality of survival in the world and all that that entails for the general person and making space for being. So if we think about the current pressures on people, economic climate, high interest rates, dollars that, like our salaries that aren't going up with the cost of living, like those things feel very real. They are very real. And I can sort of feel or imagine how tricky it is for a human to feel like they can put something down when it does feel like we live in quite a pressure cooker.
Yes.
So let's unpack that, because I feel like the wisdom that you have, if we can pull it apart, there's going to be something of great value here for our listeners.
I love these questions because they are real, right? We have agreed upon illusions too, right? Society has agreed upon these things, and these things are important because they help society grow. They help us grow as in economic factors, and there are real challenges outside of us. I would challenge any viewer or listener who is feeling those challenges too much is, what do you focus on throughout your day? You focus on what you can control versus what you can't control. Or you focus on what you have versus what you don't have, right? We can talk about gratitude. We can talk about appreciation and all these things. If you want to talk about it from a very SOP, this is what I like to do, standard operating procedures. What is it that's going on that's causing the charge, right? This is where, this might trigger some people, I feel traditional psychotherapy fails. They're always looking for the why, right? Why is it going like this? Why is it going like this? Well, I know a lot of whys. Some people know a lot of whys. I know people who have phobias of spider, or a good friend has a phobia of spider, right? He knows exactly why, but that doesn't help him change it, right? I want to know the how, right? So we're talking about the how to change things. That's the causality. And to understand the mechanism of causation is where you can begin to change things for yourself, and that is awareness. So if someone is focusing on all the challenges that are going outside, I can appreciate how one could be flustered, overwhelmed of all the things that are going on outside. What they need to start to realize is that the map is not the territory. And what I mean by that is that their internal map of the world is not what is going on in the world, right? And too many people are focused on the territory outside and trying to change the territory rather than the internal map of what's going on inside. And that's where a lot of frustration, anger, sadness comes because you, as you put it beautifully, we do have this survival mechanism, right? And if my survival mechanism is always looking outside, is always trying to gain the edge out there, and if I'm not focusing on what's going on inside, then I will struggle. I will hit resistance, right? So that is what I mean by challenging the illusions that there are so many things going on inside. I believe there are. I agree there are. But what can you take control over versus what is uncontrollable for you?
Let's do the how, because I also love the why. And you may or may not know this about me, but I am a psychologist. So I got the why.
Let's go.
Love the how.
Yeah.
Let's unpack the how, because I think the why has a place. You probably do too. And psychology, psychotherapy, it doesn't hit issues from every angle. It does a pretty good job of hitting it from quite a lot of angles. So what you're talking about is the gap in traditional psychotherapy, and I am here for it. Tell me about the how.
In what context would you like to know the how?
Well, channeling the listener experience, they get the why. What do you mean that if you understand the how, you can undo something? So we've got the phobia example. Do you want to do that from the how?
Yeah, sure. So say someone has a phobia of spiders, for example, right? I believe, and I haven't studied too much traditional psychotherapy, probably to the level you have, but I do understand that most of them were like, well, why do you think you are afraid of spiders, right? Why do you think that causes you, right? If you get caught up in the why, you could go down that rabbit hole for a while, right?
You could.
The why is ever ending. I want to know more about the what and how we can change it specifically.
Yeah.
Right? So there's different techniques that I've learned over the years to help someone overcome a phobia. I'm more about linguistics. We see things, human beings see things with imagery, right? So all language is represented with some kind of visual image. If I say apple, you will pull up an image of apple in your mind. If I say the word fear, you may pull up different images of fear throughout your life.
Yeah.
Right? So our mind sees things graphically. So you can change the graphics of how someone sees things in their mind. Let's take a spider. If I enlarge that spider and it's in your face and it's one of those big tarantulas from Australia, where I'm sure you've seen a couple of them before, right? That might engage the phobia at a high level, right? But if all of a sudden, if I turn that spider into a puppet that's a Disney 2 character and it's playing a flute and it's laughing with you, and then you can tick a little bit, you can change the feeling association with the imagery of the spider. So that is how you can change some things.
Roger that. So let's keep playing in this direction because this is super fun.
Yep.
So in traditional psychology, we would use most likely exposure therapy to work with someone's phobia. So that is getting closer and closer and closer to the exposure of the stimuli that causes the response and then neutralize the response. This is a visualization way of doing a similar thing, but it has this lovely tweak to it, which is playful and activates different circuitry in the brain, which then takes you away from the fear and into the fun or the play, which are very different circuits. That feels quite impressive.
I mean, impressive is a good word. I just think it's basic human programming. And I didn't develop it. I've learned it through traditional masters like Tony Robbins. I didn't learn it from him directly. He studied with someone named Dr. Richard Bandler and Dr. Tad James, and they're the ones who created neurolinguistic programming, right? This that you gave me, right?
Yeah, Tumblestone.
This is now an anchor, a trigger for me of something that's going to give me a good feeling of experience with you, right?
Yeah.
We anchor unconsciously emotions to things all around us in our environment at all times. This is what Pavlov's dog was doing with that experience, right? So everything is an emotion that starts with a trigger. If I can find the first decision point of when that trigger happened for you and change that emotional association, then we can change the program that runs after it. Say someone was self-sabotaging themselves with a diet, for example, right? Which a lot of people in our country do. Now, we can go into a lot of things in America, and I would agree that the FDA is overrun, like Big Pharma runs it. big food companies. There's a lot of things that we can make changes on, right?
Mm.
But still, someone has a behavior or self-sabotaging with a diet. There was a decision point in there, right?
Mm.
Maybe it's around self-worth. Maybe it's around something they learned. Who knows, right?
Mm.
But if you can change that decision point, you're changing patterns. And that's all human beings are. We are programming of patterns all the time.
So in order to find the beginning of when something started to be built that has led you to negative consequences, so these are the things we need to put down to circle back to where we started from.
Mm-hmm.
These are the patterns or infrastructure inside ourselves that needs to be reduced or concluded. I call it like the internet tab needs to be closed.
Nice.
Because it's open, right?
Yep.
So then our bandwidth gets too stretched across too many open tabs. And so then we become overwhelmed. We tip into that nervous system kind of space.
Mm.
So you're essentially saying close the tabs by looking at a timeline for this pattern that doesn't serve you anymore. Go back to the first place of the timeline and work there. And when you get there, what happens? So now we know the very first time that you had the experience with the spider. What do we do here now?
We change the feeling association with it, right?
All right.
Because most human beings, we're not making logical decisions, we're making emotional decisions.
Unconscious or conscious?
Both,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. The right hemisphere most of the time is dealing with our more complex questions, the bigger questions, the why.
Mm.
And the left side is dealing with the more complicated ones. And that's where the algorithms of our mind are formed. So both are working together, right?
Mm.
So I love your analogy. We use it a lot in Upgrade, right? The computer.
Oh, you
Our
do?
unconscious mind is the operating system
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
And the operating system allows us to download the data that's around us at all times. If the operating system is lagging, let's call it an iOS 1, and you're trying to put apps from nowadays on your iOS 16 Pro, but you still have that operating system that's lagging and it has stuff that is belief systems that are passed down to you from parents, ancestral programming, society, environment, all these things. And then you have your own negative trauma and emotions on that as well. You can see how someone might be frustrated with how they're downloading the speed of data around them, right? So I have an appreciation for that. So let's use that analogy. We like to actually use folders, right? So instead of the tabs, we'll talk about the first folder that we found and all the subfolders all the way up till now, what's going on. So that very first document that you opened up, that we'll use the spider still, it can be anything, right? That first folder, like what's in that folder? Tell me about it. Can you describe it to me? Because I want to know it through your modalities, and those are your 5 sensory cuties, which is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, smell, and taste. But then there's submodalities as well. And these are what we call the building blocks of your reality. So within the submodalities is, tell me about the picture. Is it black? Is it white? Is it clear? Was it hazy? Is it large? Was there any smells that are important? Like, where were you? I want to know all those submodalities of how they interpreted the data. That makes the logical and the emotional decision point. If we can change those submodalities, we're changing the program, and therefore all the folders up until now, they change as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious for my own interest here. Apologies, listeners, if this is not that interesting to you. But the psychological overlay that I'm curious about is as you look at someone's timeline and you look at the first 2 years where language doesn't exist yet, the experiences are encoded in a different way, which can't be retrieved through images or words. It's got to be retrieved through feelings. Does that line up with your method?
To a degree, I might challenge back that one cannot retrieve that information, because I've actually had hundreds of clients and we've done many demonstrations of people retrieving information not only from birth, but even before life, right?
Totally. So I agree that you can retrieve information from those spaces.
Yep.
I would say that it's very hard to put words around it. It is more of a felt experience because the language hasn't been encoded because there wasn't language. And so the best for that period of time, yeah?
It's just, I would guess, agreed upon, is this language accurate or not? And I don't care if it's accurate or not, only to the user.
Right. So long as they can put words around the felt experience, you can match the words and go from there.
Because it exists in their minds, their program, right? So whatever language they use to describe the feeling,
and that works
for them.
Got it. Because when I work in that space, I probably do the same thing. And also, other modalities are often really helpful in those in utero or post first 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was William James, the father of American psychology, said the first 7 to 8 years are just imprint stages. We learn about 90 to 95% of our belief systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So switching tacks, you're a new dad. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm super, super thrilled for you both.
Yep.
Are you thinking about your beautiful boy's first 8 years and what's imprinted on him? And are you thinking strategically about what that might look like, feel like, sound like, how you might live in terms of setting him up based on the principles you understand?
Yes. Is the overarching answer. It's yes. I've been thinking about that since Brielle, who's my fiance, and I made the decision that we wanted to be parents. Right. We talked a lot about the things that we liked growing up, the things we didn't like. She's also trained as well. So we talked about, okay, we got these skill sets. What are we going to do with these skill sets, right? Now, here's the cool thing that I've learned about being a father in a very short time, and I'm sure you can appreciate this being a mother yourself. You have a plan, and then you got to surrender a little bit too, right? You got to surrender and be like, I'm not going to control everything that happens within my child's world.
No.
Right? That'd be naive to think that I have that kind of ability. Be foolish to think that I even want that at some level, right? I want to be an influence, right? At the same time, I want my son Roman to have abilities more than anything. I want him to have skill sets of awareness. So yes, I think about how can I set up playtime? How can I set up learning time, structured learning time that will give him awareness skills that I didn't have until probably my mid-30s, right? So I think about those things for sure.
All right. Coming at parenthood from another perspective, you know, you don't get through childhood unscathed.
Yeah.
Even when you've got a great parent like you,
yeah.
Your beautiful boy is going to have hang-ups, pain. You're going to misjudge some things. You'll let him down sometimes in ways that you can't predict from your experience of his childhood. He's going to have an experience of you, which is maybe an unintended negative consequence of something that you even meant in a positive way. Talk to us about the reality of that and what you can do as a parent to repair the unintended negative consequences that come just from being alive, even when you have a parent who's a pretty good parent doing their best 80% of the time.
I love this. So first, I would say it starts with the parents, right? What is their philosophy of the big philosophy? For Brielle and I, it's that there's going to be challenges for my son. Of course, there's going to be internal challenges and external challenges that both we will present to him, society will present to him, just life in general present to him. I look at that as great, beautiful, right? Human beings grow with challenges. We develop with challenges. So what is our perspective of it is going to naturally project onto him. Hey, you got challenged today. Tell me about it. How did you feel, right? What were your thoughts going through that? It made you a little sad. Tell me more about that. Let's talk about it, right? Let's get down to specifics. If we have the philosophy that challenges are welcomed, then I believe that he'll take on that as well, right? So that would be the foundation of him. That's my wish, right? My hope that the foundation of him is he welcomes challenges because he knows that he develops and grows when he has challenges for himself, right? Now, the unintended consequences, those comes from what skill sets will he develop to handle those challenges, right? Does he sit in his room and just, cry, or doesn't want to talk to anyone about those? That I'm not saying that's right or wrong, right? However he handles those challenges is going to depend on his level of skill sets. So I hope to, first of all, be an example of what skill sets that he can catch, right? Because kids caught more than taught most of the time. But there's going to be times where I know that we're probably going to have at it, right? I'm not a perfect human being. I want to say this right now. Everyone who's watching this, while I have skill sets, I have flaws, right?
Because you're human.
Yes.
There is no such thing as perfection, people.
Exactly.
No such thing. And in fact, I would argue that perfection is incredibly harmful.
Yeah.
Because it's not real.
If your goal is perfection, you're going to live a very depressed life. I probably would, if I was even thought about being perfect, it just sounds depressing, to be quite honest, right? I like the messiness. I like sitting in the discomfort sometimes. I've done a lot of different things that my friends have been like, why would you ever do that? I'm like, because I knew I'd probably fail. I knew it would challenge me in ways that I couldn't challenge myself. So I, on purpose, did it knowing that the probability of failure was there. So I also hope to be that for my son, and maybe that triggers him at times. Good. I hope it does, so it can bring the stuff out. I'd rather have the stuff, right? The stuff that's internally inside of him get brought out through family and us before he goes to be 19 and he's traveling around Europe, or he's in college, or whatever he's doing, whatever his decision is at the time, right? So he can resolve it with us, and we can have those conversations, and he can be, I would just say, more resilient and resourceful when he gets out there.
This sounds so beautiful. And listeners, I'm going to poke the bear a little.
Yes. Again, he's only 3.5 months old. This is all theory at this point. Let's go.
It's like real good theory.
Yeah.
But here's the bit that I think would be the most value for us to play around with. Let's fast forward, maybe not 9 years, maybe like 12, 14 years, and you're in that tween teen stage, and you're at the stage where external factors are starting to become more interesting than your family life. Even if you're deeply connected to your family, you're still like, ooh, friends over here, and this thing over here at school, and this thing here. And you're starting to run into more of the complexity. And you're starting to run into those spaces where it's not so easy to resolve. So you can do a heap of coaching and a heap of translation and some really good infrastructure, and you can have built that all the way up to 14, 15, 16. And then you're starting to get into the place of autonomy for your child. And perhaps the child has very big feelings. Thinking of a friend of mine who's going through something with her teenager, and how limited she is with the ability to influence his environment, and the ability for her son to take on her support or coaching. And you're getting into those spaces with very big feelings that children are apparently very good at finding your buttons and finding your weak parts and going for the jugular when they're in pain to make you feel the pain, transfer the pain, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what it might be like for you in that space of vulnerability where you have taken a truthful hit of some kind of serum from your beautiful Roman who's put a mirror onto you, and at the same time you're parenting and connecting, and you're like, can I actually resolve this with him? Can I actually help him through this? This feels like it's new for both of us. And I've got good infrastructure. I understand all the things. And this is my son. And my son is hurt and hurting, and so am I. Oh, I'm in a bit of pain with this one. And we're in a critical moment. Can you talk to us about how you would organize yourself and how you might be able to show up when you're under that duress, not in your necessary best self? You still got access to all your resources, but you're in one of those moments as well. Tell us about that.
I'll answer this from, and I appreciate this question so much, trust me. I'll answer this from two parts. First of all, this is the reason that I founded the company called Edutive, right? Because over the years, most of our clientele was adults, right? But we had many of our clients be like, can you help me with my kids? Can you help me with my 14-year-old son, my 17-year-old daughter, right? So we've had the opportunity to work with many clients who have kids, and also we started a program called Upgrade Academy that was from 12 to 18, and we're working with some school systems right now to get Upgrade Academy in there. So we have some methodologies already and some practices and strategies that we know are effective. But let's put that aside and let's go into the future me, right? My situation. I always go with this first of all, and this may help out your friend who's dealing with this with their daughter right now. The person with the strongest state will control the room.
It's Strongest frame wins.
The strongest framework, right? The strongest emotional frame sets the framework of the room. So the person with the strongest state will ultimately influence and control the room. So if her son, if her daughter is in a stronger state, meaning more convicted about what's going on, then they're going to dictate what's going on with that outcome.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
So knowing that, reminding myself of that, doesn't mean I'm going to force anything on my son. I'm just going to be the person that has the strongest state about where the direction of the conversation is going to go, right? So let's do a future example. He's in a lot of pain, and maybe it's a mirror for me. Like, what can I learn from this? So right there in the moment, I'm going to use the same solutions and the same programming I ask for my clients to do. What can you learn from this, right? So I want to know what I could learn from that in that future moment, so that when I learn it, resolution will happen faster between Roman and I. And if I can start with me, then I'll be the mirror for him, right? Always start with myself rather than try to fix something outside. It's the same as like, it's raining outside and I'm gloomy inside because it's raining. Like, why am I trying to change the rain, right? Why am I allowing something outside of me to help that influence my internal state? So with my son, I hope to be the mirror of change that he can change from too. And if he is challenging me back, there has to also be like, what's my North Star in this moment? What do I want him to learn? Maybe it's something where I'm like, you know what? I should take a step back here and still be in super control of my state. And at the same time, allow him to maybe experience something that as a parent, maybe I don't want him to experience the pain, but maybe in this moment, it's the best learning for him, right? So I think that overall is coming down to my state control. I believe that of any person in a situation, what's your state control? What do you want as the intention, the set intention of the framework for the people that you're working with? And then for this hypothetical situation with my son and I, and then ultimately, what's the North Star that I care about most about with him, right? How much do I love him? I believe it's going to keep going. Right now he's 3.5 months, and I swear he brings me so much joy every day.
Yeah.
And then when he's that age, and any age really, I'm going to be like, well, what do I believe would be best for him in this moment? And maybe it's a moment of surrender where I'm like, maybe he has to experience some pain. Maybe I have to experience some pain. Maybe I have to let go of something, a belief system that I had for him, right? I'm open to that, right? I want to be open to whatever is in that moment is the best for him.
Hey there, Meg Tuohey here with a quick and exciting announcement. As a psychologist, coach, and founder of the Wisdom Lab, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals break free from the vicious cycles holding them back and tap into their infinite inner wisdom. If you're tired of feeling unheard, unseen, and stuck in the same old struggles, the Wisdom Lab is the breakthrough you've been yearning for. This on-demand program guides you through a powerful process to shatter emotional barriers, overcome deep-rooted blocks, and experience the profound transformation you deserve. In just 4 hours, you'll gain the tools and insights to revolutionize your life from the inside out. Want to learn more? Click or tap the link in the show notes for all the details. Okay, now back to the episode. It's a really beautiful conversation. Thank you. I'm going to take it to another level because it's interesting. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
So your nervous system is very beautifully contained. It's like nice in the green zone. It's very easy to be with you. Very cool. Very, very like as in like a warm cool.
We should go partying right now. Let's change it up.
But here's what I'm really interested in, like this next level of unpacking is I have a philosophy, humans 80-20. 80% of the time, if we can be in this space, which I call wise woman, good man, good human, that kind of space where you're alert, you're able to interact, you can make decisions from a resourced perspective where you're like, under pressure, you can figure it out, 20% of the time, you're going to have a human experience, which is, you might be hungry, tired, mad, bad, sad. You've got all the human kind of emotions. I would like us to talk about your 20% and what and how you organize that in your mind, because the 100% thing I think is not a thing. I think 80% is reasonable and also a bit stretchy for some people. Some people live more at the 65% ability to be in this kind of space. Talk to us about the times or the ways in which you look after yourself when you're not in your regulated, like online kind of version. When you're in your 20%.
Are you familiar with the saying that human beings don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall back to the level of our systems?
Yes, I would phrase it in a different way, but they match. So got it? Keep going.
There's different ways to say it.
Got it.
I think a Greek philosopher said it's like we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall back to the level of our training, of our systems, whatever it is.
Like our set point.
Yes.
Yes.
So
emotional home.
Yes.
Got it.
So to answer your question, I've designed my 20% or whatever the percentage is to really trigger me. Right. And I mean that in a way that if I am feeling in an unresourceful emotional state, I try to stay away from the negative. But let's be real. Like if you're angry, right? But I look at it as just unresourceful. So I've trained my unconscious mind to be like this observer. And I want it to be the observer. I want it to be separated from me because I am the creator and the observer at all times. But if I'm still in the creative mode and the creative mode is angry, then the angry is unresourceful. So I've trained my unconscious mind to be the observer, that there's a trigger point, just like we talked about earlier. If I feel an old emotion of angry, which the reason I'm bringing up anger is because I was an angry boy, and I do use that label a lot, right? Because I observed anger from my father and from my grandfather, and these were the men that I was trying to model behaviors growing up. They were successful, but they used anger to be successful, right? So I modeled that behavior. So the reason I'm using that negative emotion specifically because it was the one that I had to work on the most. And I trained my unconscious mind to become the observer. And I look at the observer and go, how silly is this anger right now? You are being ridiculous, right? This anger is not getting you anywhere. You are actually arguing with yourself about something that is completely trivial, right? So that's how I overcome the human element in times. I'm not saying that I don't have the human element. It's obviously still within me. You observe people who are sad and all of a sudden it's an emotional thing. You just kind of take it in because you feel from them, right? You can be in a room full of happy people and all of a sudden you take in the emotions of happiness, right? Human beings feed off energy. So I'm very aware of the energy that I'm feeling and I've trained my mind to do a trigger and go into the observer. If it's an unresourceful emotion, go into the observer and observe it from like a movie and be like, you're being kind of silly right now. Like, what are you so triggered about, dude? You have a beautiful life. You're healthy. You're a good person. I believe that, I'm using the word good subjectively, of course, right? And there's going to be observers who have different opinions.
Yes, as always, right?
Yes, and I welcome those opinions because then I get to grow.
Yes.
So to answer your question, I'm always curious about the systems of who I am and what do I fall back on because I'd rather not consciously think about it. I don't have to be like, oh, I got to go get in an ice bath right now to get into a better state, or I got to do breath work while I'm driving.
I think that's a little dangerous, but yes.
So if I have to rely on those things, I'd rather rely on the system.
Yeah. So you're triggered and you've activated your observer response and you're driving and you're actively speaking probably out loud to yourself, by yourself in the car. You're like, hey, it's okay. You're angry. You're arguing with yourself. We're in a bit of a resourceful space right now, Michael, you probably say. What do you say then? So you've acknowledged it, you can see it. Where do you go from once you recognize it? What's the next step?
So it actually starts with a process of enlightenment at the very, very micro level. I become very aware, meaning that feel your breathing, right? Feel your heartbeat. Feel your lungs going in and out. Know that there's blood pumping in your veins. Know that your eyes are flickering. Your brain is connective. You are doing all these motor skills right now, and you don't have to be conscious of any of that. You can just be completely unconscious, and all those things are going on in your body right now. How beautiful is it that your heart continues to beat and continues to serve you, and you don't have to do anything? That's a gift, right? So it's a process of enlightenment of what's going on. And then around me, look at that. You're driving in a car right now. There's people driving around you. There's nothing really separating us, these white lines, right? These white lines that we drive on the road. Man, there's a lot of trust going on with us all being very good drivers right now. How much trust do we have each other that is unconscious, right? Can I trust myself at that level? I'm just using it as an example of what I start to go into and become aware of all the things that I can be grateful for. And it's just a small process of enlightenment of the things that I'm unconscious of.
So in my world, that's mindfulness. So you're grounding. So you've recognized you're in an elevated state. You've used your observer. You've come out and you've been all like, hey, you're having a real human moment here.
Yep.
And so then you might have some level of interaction with yourself. You bring yourself back into your body by noticing sort of the physical elements of life, and then putting I liked the line on the road. Everyone's trusting everyone else here. And often when we're in those elevated spaces or lower level spaces, because helplessness, hopelessness, anger, those things are lower state spaces, yeah?
Yep.
We can forget all of the good or even neutral in the world.
Yeah.
That we can all drive together, and most of the time it goes very well.
Amazing. Like if you think about that,
right?
If you actually take some time to think about like human beings are just driving, and it's kind of scary nowadays because most of us are on our phones too. And yet there's not that many car accidents.
Not really.
For the probability factor of
No.
what we're doing. So anyway, yeah, I do a process of mindfulness, if you want to call it, enlightenment. I just want to become more aware.
Yeah.
Right. And shining light on the things that I'm unconscious of allows me to bring that awareness up, and then allows me to bring up gratitude. And gratitude is much higher emotion, right? You're talking about the lower energy fields of guilt, shame, helplessness. They're lower energy fields.
Yeah.
Gratitude and appreciation,
High,
love, it's
very
just
high.
higher. And if I can put myself up in that field, man, that's where I want to be.
Okay. So I am torn between two things I want to talk to you about.
Let's do both.
Well, let's try. We only got a little bit of time. I'm having a very good time with you, Michael.
As
so
am I.
the first thing that I want to talk about, all right, is the one about heightened states, gratitude, joy, right at the top. Yeah, right at the peak of human. My philosophy, my feel into working with humans, I work with a lot of people, is that contentment and satisfaction is the baseline where I would wish most people to be able to live 80% of the time. And then that 20%, I want them to be able to access the rest of the bell curve. So I sort of put the bell curve in the middle, like of the 80-20. And I want 80% of the time to live in contentment, satisfaction. We can access gratitude and feelings of all the things that we just talked about. Look at us driving on the road, and there's a 6-lane highway on both sides, and everyone's doing pretty well. We all are here together, all working in a similar space. This is pretty amazing, right? The 20% of the other sides of the bell curve, we have helplessness, hopelessness, anger, despair, blame, deny, justify, like those things over here. The other side is where I'd see the peak states, which is like that true gratitude and that access of joy. I feel like those are designed to go for experience, but I wouldn't want to condition either end as my emotional home. I think that's unrealistic. I wonder, is that your philosophy? I wonder if you have a different perspective.
It's a great question. So may I ask a question back?
Yeah.
With the philosophy that you have, is it a blanket philosophy for everyone, or is it philosophy more specific to someone within what framework and what phase they are at in their life?
Yeah. I think I don't ever like blanket anything.
Okay.
So I would say by default, it has to be the second.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Perfect.
don't like all or nothing things. I don't like that.
Neither do I.
Doesn't work for me.
We're human beings. We all have
Yeah.
very unique codes.
Yes.
So that's why I was asking the question,
Yeah.
right? Because this helps me steer my answer. I would say depending on what someone's North Star is, where they're trying to go with their life, what their goals and ambitions are, I would say that I want them to be content to a degree that also challenges them, because if someone is challenged but they don't have a great enough skill set, they may feel overwhelmed. But if they have a high enough skill set and the challenge too low, they're going to become bored.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So I want someone to be challenged while also developing the skill set, right? And content usually doesn't lie if you're not within there, because you got to struggle a little bit to get that skill set.
Correct.
Right? You got to struggle a little bit to grow and get that skill set.
Correct.
So I like it for the most part, but depending, and the reason I bring this up, because with Upgrade, we work with a lot of high performers. So we're talking 7, 8 figure CEO people, right? They lead teams of hundreds to thousands of people. And they're like, I am responsible for so many lives right now. And I'm taking all that weight on me. I'm taking all that emotional turmoil on me. So how do they still be satisfied and enjoyed what they're doing? So the programming has to be a little different than just being content. So that's why I'm challenging just a little bit in terms of that, and having to say it's specific to where someone's at within their life.
So let's do this together, because this is super fun for me.
Yep.
I'm like having a good time. Content. So if we're talking emotional home, satisfaction, contentment,
Okay.
that feels like a good baseline.
And how would you break that down, just so I'm clear on that too?
So I feel like 80% of the time, if you can feel like I am happy and at peace in my body, I feel satisfied with the work that I'm doing and the way in which I'm living my life. I'm enjoying and able, even in the hard days, even in the hard moments, I still am on a track. I'm on a track that allows me to feel contentment and satisfaction.
Okay.
So the human condition.
I love that, by the way.
You do? Yes?
I do, because most people that I talk to when they feel content, they're more on the survival only.
Oh, no.
Right. And that's
No.
where, yeah.
Okay, so we're working this out.
Yeah.
Because we did just meet each other today.
Exactly.
Okay.
And most people are like, hey, I'm surviving. I just need enough money to get by, right, that, and they're content with that.
No.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you set a goal or an intention, your job is then to meet the challenges that immediately rise up. As your subconscious is like, well, if you want to be this version of you, you're going to have to deal with this bit.
Yep.
Yeah. So you and I both agree.
Oh, yeah.
So the 20% is when you go and you do that work. But if your baseline that you return to is still contentment and satisfaction 80% of the time, that to me feels like a life well lived.
Yep.
Where you have you're on your own right track that belongs to your own heart print, and you're able to grow, and you're going to get stuck at some things, and you're going to enjoy some things, and you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows, and you're going to have human experiences. But ultimately, if you're in that space where you're fluid with life, that's where we're going to see the full expression of your heart print, who you are and how you're meant to live your life.
I love that.
You agree?
Yeah. Are you familiar with Dr. Arthur Brooks?
I'm not.
He co-authored a book with Oprah, but he's I would say, neuroscientist at Harvard, and what you were just talking about there remind me of his work. He calls it the macronutrients of happiness is enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning.
Meaning.
So a lot of what you just talked about reminded me of what his philosophy is, the protein, the carbs, and the fat of happiness, or enjoyment, satisfaction, meaning. And a lot of it was that. And I think where you may be going with this is similar to what he talked about too. He wants people to know what he calls the room line, which is in sailing is what is the line, the direction of the destination we're going towards. And discernment, that process of discernment, is figuring out how do I get better on that room line, because the wind is still going to blow you off course from time to time.
Of course it is, because that's the human experience.
Yes.
We're in a meat suit on a rock hurtling through space.
The cosmic joke.
Right? And so we've got this human experience we are trying to navigate at the same time as expand in terms of who we really are and live a life that matches that in a congruent way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the work that I love to do is to help people become more aware if they're knocking themselves off course, rather than having life allow them to knock off course. Because most of the time people are just looking outside and be like, well, she did that to me. That means that I'm in a bad state and now I can't do this.
Yeah.
Well, she just did something. You are the trigger. You're the response to it. So where are you going to be responsible for what happens next? Right? So my work is more about Where can people take control of what's going on inside for them
Mm.
and then change their model of the world outside?
Yeah. So you and I do very similar work and
Yep.
we use similar frameworks, but we also do it in a different way, which is why this conversation is so fun.
As
Because,
long as we get results for people, let's do it.
right? Well, and also, there's no one way.
It can't be.
There can't be,
Silly.
right? Yeah, I really like it. Okay, so full circle moment. We started with your wisdom,
Mm.
and your wisdom was to put something down, essentially, close the tabs, endings. That's the wisdom. We've just done this lovely conversation. Just fill us back in about how what we just talked about links to endings or putting something down or eliminating or reducing something.
Yeah, our falsehoods and our belief systems are very much intertwined, right?
Mm.
And I mean that similar to what we talked about earlier with the map is not the territory. So if I keep looking at the world through my model of the world and I keep trying to change reality, reality is full of the collective consciousness. It's so powerful, right? And if I keep trying to bring reality down to my model of the world, I'm going to have a challenge, right? So it's most of the time it's changing what's something going on with my model of the world, my map of reality to expand onto reality, right? And that usually happens from subtraction. So you can have awareness and then the model expands. That's what I've seen most of the time within our work. People can call it the path of enlightenment. I know there's spiritual connections to it as well. Most of the time when I work with the client, it's something that they have to let go of for them to move forward and get more.
So the way I visualize this when you say it is there is reality. People are trying to pull that in to match what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it, doesn't work.
Reality is so much bigger than us.
The job then of yours is to unhook them from that hold they have on reality so that reality sort of springs back up to being what it is. And then they are seeing the territory and expanding their map. And from there we have the breakthrough, which means that there is a perception shift and that old hold it disappears, it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing they're putting down.
Yeah, it's when they drop their illusions of how the reality should be.
Should.
Right, that word should. That's always a fun should or should not. That's where once you start to release presuppositions, you start to release the shoulds and the shoulds nots, that your model of the world starts to expand. And you can actually experience more of reality because you see more of the reality, right? It's like you and I are looking at a painting and you're seeing this complete openness of the painting. And you're also interpreting what the artist was doing too. You're actually experiencing something too. And I'm just looking at this small little dot. I'm like, why would he draw it like that? That's weird. And you're like, Michael, look at the whole landscape, right? Look at everything, experience out here. And I try to imagine what this artist was feeling at the time, right? Your expansion of reality is so much bigger than mine. If I'm myopic and I'm just focusing on something that maybe triggered me because that little thing is off. I think too many human beings are just focused on something very myopic.
Okay. So here we are heading towards the end of our conversation. And I'm going to do a little space setting. So instead of this wonderful studio we're in, we're now on a porch.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's like a very nice temperature outside. You have got 1 to 5 of your favorite drinks. You can have as many as you want, but you know you're going to have trouble carrying more than 5 on a tray. And you're like very comfortable. And so am I. I've got 2 or 3 drinks and we've got some snacks and it's like twilight. We've got some fireflies out. You know, that's nice.
Nice.
And there's a space here for our listener. And you've got the chance to give one more piece of wisdom that feels like the conclusion of us being together in this space. So maybe we've come out of our living room onto the porch. And we're all just very relaxed now because we know each other. We've had a great time. We've learned a lot. We've shared a lot. We've poked around a lot. We've figured things out. But there's one last thing that you want to share with us.
Mm.
And I just wonder what that is.
Challenge your ego every day. The ego is a survival mechanism, and be thankful for it. It's why you're alive. It's why human beings survived this many years, because we had an ego. But the ego also holds you back in many different ways. Find ways to let go of your ego and transcend it.
Okay, so here I go with my question asking, what is the ego? How do I know when it's talking to me? And how do I know what to challenge it with?
The ego shows up in many different forms, but the ego is more about worrying about myself too much, worrying about what's in it for me too much, worrying about just my survival. And most of the time it's looking through a lens, as we talked about earlier, through falsehood beliefs, right? My fiance and I, when we were thinking about getting, when we were about to make the decision to get pregnant, right? She was like, well, she's a fantastic singer. And she's like, well, this is going to ruin my career. Like, if I become a mother, I'm not going to be able to do music at the same time. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't, let me ask you this. Do you think there's any other musicians out there that are mothers? Right? And I was like, do you think anyone else out there may have also had a music career and been a mother at the same time? I'm sure we could look some up, right? I was like, well, so why is it that you think, or like, how is it that you think it's different for you, right? And won't go into personal details, but we eventually got to the ending point that it had to do with the self-worth of, do I deserve to be a mother and have a career at the same time? That's an ego coming in and being like, you can't have both. So I think that the ego is limiting. The ego is only about survival, where transcendence of the ego is like, how could I have both? And if I were to have both, how would I challenge myself to have both?
Could you pull apart for us the difference between ego and belief systems?
I think they're really connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pull apart. I think the belief systems feed into the ego, and the belief systems feed into the values, and the value systems make up our identity, and our identity is the ego at that level, right? So it's not that the ego is bad or good. It just needs an upgrade.
I'm following along. The stillness in my mind is mapping what you're saying to my understanding so I can find my next right question. But essentially what I'm hearing is ego and belief systems are intertwined, almost completely intertwined, but perhaps with a little bit of give. And when you adjust your beliefs, what happens to your ego?
It transcends.
Expands?
Yeah.
And is the goal over time, so if we have a timeline of a person's life and we start here, is the goal for the ego to really expand across a life?
I think so. And again, I'm, how do I put this? I'm only 38 years old. So I'm on my journey of expansion myself.
Yeah.
What I've read, what I've studied, and what I've witnessed through hundreds of clients' experiences is the transcendence of the ego usually comes back to that I am a part of the greater whole. There's really no separation from this. So every time that the ego feels that it's separate from the big picture, from everyone else, and it's only about self, that's when you're holding on to something, right? You're holding on to your old belief systems that it's just about me. It's a survival mechanism. It's me versus you. It's win versus someone else. Those belief systems that you said are highly tied into the ego. So the more you transcend your belief systems and realize that you are connected to something greater and larger, that there is no separation, and they prove this in quantum theory and mechanics a lot, that's transcending of the ego.
Is there another word you could use for ego? Is there another framework that fits that? Or is ego just the only word that could be used to describe what it is?
I.
Is it like the human part of us?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, it's formed over millions of years of biological evolution, because psychology is biology, right? And everything that we experience in the mind, we experience in our body as well. So that's why there's no separation between the mind and the body. So how I identify right? My I is made up of my value systems.
Mm.
My value systems are made of my belief systems, which were formed through my parents and society of decisions and all these things that make up I, me. The ego comes in, and that's a survival mechanism, and sometimes it will hold me back from transcending and living up to my fuller potential,
Mm.
right? So when I say to the listener or the viewer, challenge the ego, I'm actually saying challenge I, yourself.
Yeah, I feel like that is a chef's kiss. I do. One last piece of the puzzle. So if you're looking at ego as I, am I right in hearing that you linked the Jungian idea of the collective unconscious to the ego?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So he talked about the self, lowercase s, and then the capital self, right? Which is the conscious self, and then the unconscious self, which is the greater. And those are the things that we don't know, that we don't know, that we don't know about ourselves. And those are deep within the unconscious mind. And you usually need to do some kind of trance meditative work to get into that state. And it's because that human beings can only process 50 bits of information consciously per second, but 11 million bits per second we can process unconsciously. So that's a ton of information that we're deleting, distorting, and generalizing that just gets filtered into our unconscious. It's still there. I'm just not consciously focused on it. So that's the self of the conscious, and then the unconscious. And then Jungian's, the collective consciousness is around us as well. I have my unconscious, but then it's tapped into the collective conscious. We can use the computer analogy. I have my own operating system that's tapped into the operating system, right? So there's so much data around us at all time. I have a phrase, and I've actually trademarked, the manufacture of coincidences is really just when I actually am intentional about causation, and then everything that was already there for me, I'm allowed to tap into it with faster intention. And why that's connected to Jung's theory is it's always there. I'm the only thing stopping it from allowing that information to get to me. It's my illusions, it's my belief systems that's holding it back from me.
So this is the human meat suit that's dense in frequency.
Oh, yeah.
That cannot match the frequency of the uncollective unless you are in a transmeditative state, and then everything is visible. The veil thins.
Yeah, and the human meat suit is made up of the mind, right? The mind is controlling the meat suit. So how quickly is that operating system of the mind processing the information that's around us at all time? If it's still lagging because it got old, outdated programs, old, outdated belief systems, then the information is going to take a while to get to there, right? Are you familiar with remote viewing by chance? So we know David Morehouse, who is kind of wrote the book with the CIA on the remote viewing course. And we did a practice with him down in Miami once, where we had people that were in his training do a remote viewing target. We had people that were in upgrade training do a remote viewing target, and then people that were in both his training and upgrades training.
And upgrade is your system, yes?
Upgrade is actually William Lamb.
Okay.
He founded that company. I'm his business partner, right? So William sought out David and said, David, I want to work with you, right? And David at first was resistant. We can go into David's story later on. The purpose of it is that remote viewing is the ability to tap into the unseen data that's around us at all time without being given any information prior of it, right? CIA in the 1970s, they gave SRI, which is Stanford Research Institute, about $40 or $50 million, something like that. You're going to look this up on Google to do the research if human beings have this ability. The reason I bring this up is because they found out that everyone has the ability. It's just about the belief systems that's holding one back to actually do that. So when we did our side-by-side test theory stress experiment, people that had never done remote viewing before were able to get 20% accuracy on the target that David gave them. People that had done his training were doing in the 40 to 50% accuracy. People who had done David's training plus upgrades training were in the 70 to 80% because we had cleared the mechanism that was downloading the data. All right? You're never 100% accurate. That's crazy to think that you can take information from an 8D and go down to a 3D and 2D. But everyone that had cleared the mind and got rid of the false belief systems that were holding them back download the data faster. Now, why is that important? The data is around us at all time. We live and we are always connected to the collective consciousness at all time. If your mind is lagging, it's going to feel resistance.
Yeah. So I receive all of that. And the one thing I want to connect it to is the idea that nothing ever is lost, which is to say that anybody that's ever been here has left their energetic imprint, which is available in the collective unconscious, just as it is to be able to remote view into an office to retrieve information to be used for defense or war-based purposes. Yeah?
Yep.
So we can take that philosophy and apply it to anything that is of interest or feels lost or unknown to a human. And that feels like wisdom.
I would agree.
Nothing
Because
is lost.
when you or I read a book, let's say from the Bible from back in the day or Marcus Aurelius, all that wisdom was energetic at that time, and we're able to transport back to that time and grab that energy and pull it back to now. So it's never lost, to your point.
Do you feel like when we pull it back in, it goes through our body and that's where it's stored? Or do you see it stored more in the brain?
They're connected, right? The psychology is the biology,
Same.
right? So it obviously, I process it visually when I read it. There's also a kinesthetic feeling, so it's going through my sensory acuities in that form. But then it goes through my filters of my belief systems. So I interpret the data. You and I will read a book and we'll interpret it differently based on our belief systems. So it goes through our psychology into our biology.
What a fun conversation. I could go and go and go and go and go with you. I would like one day to reconnect and we can pick up where we've left off.
Yeah, I'll do part 2.
We do part 2.
Yeah.
Goodness knows where we travel to then, friend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with
Thank you.
me. Such a joy. In today's episode, we explored his journey as a performance coach, an entrepreneur, and a thought leader. The insights he's gained from helping others master focus and emotional intelligence, and his passion for living intentionally and purposefully. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. You can follow Michael by searching at @Michael Mahoney on Instagram and checking out the links in the show notes. To stay connected with me, follow @Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and I have been so wonderfully blessed to have had you in the studio with me today. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on @Meg Tuohey Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.